Next, we have Amber Alston, who is our VP of Product, presenting on what's new with reporting and insights. So I'll bring up Amber.
Thank you,
And
Grant.
let Amber share. You can share now.
Yes. See it?
We got it.
All right, perfect. I'll jump into it. Again, as Grant said, I'm Amber Alston. I'm the VP of Product at Replicated. And we've been very hard at work at making improvements to our reporting, insights, and telemetry capabilities, including new ways to interact with the data, improvements to custom metrics, and more. And in this presentation, we're going to be focusing on sort of what's new with reporting and insights from the Replicated platform. So before we actually dive into the new stuff, I wanted to start by quickly recapping some of the key reporting and insight capabilities that have been available for a while and how you can make use of these. So our per customer overview page in Vendor Portal allows you to see a snapshot of your customer at a glance without needing to call them up. So it's a holistic view of all of that customer's instances. And then, of course, diving into the more detailed per instance view from the customer overview page or from an app instance level notification that you have set up allows you to dive deeper into like what's actually happening in that instance. And that really allows you to spend more time solving your customers' problems versus having to ask them questions and trying to figure out via that customer reporting what's actually going on. Additionally, the customer roll-up view that we introduced a few months ago of all instances is great for leaders and executives that want a more holistic view, of kind of what's going on across your larger customer base. And as is the view that helps you understand sort of how much lag you have with your customers adopting the latest versions of your application. The detailed instance level information you already get today from Replicated allows you to do some really cool things. Some customers have already started actually using that instance insights data I was just showing you to identify and drive necessary customer representative testing versus via the compatibility matrix, which Grant touched on and we're going to touch on a bit later in the talk today. We want to continue to look at how we can sort of make that a more seamless integration experience. But if you'd like to go ahead and learn how some of our customers are already doing this integration now via GitHub Actions, please, we'll share this deck out. Take a look at the linked blog that explains kind of how some folks are doing it today, as well as feel free to reach out to us to request a demo or even an integration pairing session. So let's get into sort of talking about what's the newest improvements to the Replicated platform reporting insights and telemetry capabilities. And I want to first highlight kind of what's new within our data capabilities that have been recently released. So in working with over 100 plus software vendors to use Replicated to deliver their customer managed software, we found that teams working at scale need good data to make the right decisions. And well, certainly while exposing this data in the vendor portal UI via several new reporting and collection mechanisms is a great start, we found that once some of these vendors started hitting customer scales in the 20s, 30s, and beyond at that scale, these teams were using the data to better drive decisions and wanting to make certain decisions around product, sales, and strategy. And often when you get to that point in your scale, you're starting to look at like, what kind of data tools do we have in-house? How can I leverage the data from Replicated back in those tools so I can combine them with other systems? So vendors were looking to start to bring in the Replicated data into CRM systems like Salesforce or Gainsight, or in a data warehouse like Snowflake or BigQuery, or even a BI tool like Tableau. And at the core, we really wanted to deliver features that would allow your data analyst, analytics engineers, data engineers to make the most of the data we're giving you in order to drive fast decisions that help you make better decisions for your product and engineering lifecycle. So, and with the new options we have for CSV export and JSON export that I'm about to touch on, bulk export, you now have the option to basically review that data in Vendor Portal and the UI and some of the default dashboards we have for you, but also be able to export it via APIs and CSV downloads into your sort of system of choice. So with that, one of the new things that we recently introduced that I wanted to highlight was our new instances CSV data export. So we've long had available a customer report, CSV, but the challenge with that sort of long-standing report was that it delivered one instance row per customer. And that was the most recently checked in instance, which wasn't ideal if your downstream customer had multiple instances installed. So with this new additionally available report, this instances CSV, you actually get one row per instance, which you can then aggregate per customer as needed. So this new CSV format, since the rows are per instance, it also allows you to download a lot more of the new instance level telemetry that we've introduced and that I touched on earlier in the talk. And of course, while CSVs provide a simple standard for export, we also know that for some teams, CSV management can be complex. So we've also introduced the ability to export that same instance level data via reporting data via JSON APIs. JSON APIs, of course, give you the value of like type data, open API schema, and just can generally be easier to consume into downstream systems. So that's particularly true for products like Airflow or Meltano. So, we've gotten great feedback, of course, on the value that vendors are finding in the data and those new instance level CSV and the JSON export I just mentioned, but they are point in time reports. So even if you pull your data on semi-regular interval and snapshot that state, it can still lack the granularity to actually know that a particular change has happened. You might miss, an app status changed unavailable, or your customer upgraded their Kubernetes to 127.1. So we wanted to also introduce the ability to more easily export a history of every event across all customer instances to allow you to do more detailed analysis back in your data tool of choice. We've gotten great feedback so far on the value that vendors are finding in the new JSON and CSV exports for customer data. And in addition to those data reporting capabilities, so we want to allow you to ask questions of your data via those new export capabilities. So some of the questions we suggest you consider asking if you're not already is, based on historical trends, what percentage of instances might you expect to have downtime based on sort of that historical performance? Are you actually getting better over time? Looking at your trial licenses, how many percentage of those trial licenses install successfully across all your customer license types, how many installation attempts are in progress, how many have been started but now abandoned. Those are just some of the questions that you can more easily answer now by taking the data that Replicated is providing you and exporting it into your system of choice. So in addition to sort of the improvements that we've made to data export, I also want to highlight some of the things that are new with customer reporting. So we've continued to add a lot of value there. One of the big things, of course, that Grant mentioned earlier was the past few months, we've introduced things like custom metrics. And so one of the nice things about custom metrics is beyond just instance uptime and app versions and infrastructure status, you can now essentially measure anything you want about customer instances by simply including the Replicated SDK and posting a custom metrics payload to an in-cluster endpoint. So instrumenting your application with custom metrics means that your product teams could instrument in a way that better allows them to understand usage and adoption of features. Your sales customer success organizations can understand usage volume to identify potential opportunities, but also churn risk. And your engineering and support teams can better instrument the application in ways that allow them to understand some of the scaling challenges that are happening with your customers and proactively in particular as your usage grows. So of course, once you've started sending custom metrics, you can also now see a graph of each custom metric and how it has changed for the last 30 days. This can help you understand sort of the trend of the custom metrics over time and see how successful your customers are with your product. And of course, when you instrument for custom metrics, in addition to the historical view, you can also now choose to be notified on the change of a custom metrics for your instance. So these notifications come in near real time. They bulk if multiple changes are happening at once. And again, this can allow you to be more proactive in addressing your customers' needs. While we introduced the ability to get notified on custom metrics, we also allowed you to have more nuance in sort of how you are subscribing. So in addition to subscribing to custom metrics, you can now also isolate notification subscriptions between app status and the system events if that's desirable. And of course, some of the other new things that are coming as far as customer reporting, vendors have often told us that they wish they had more insight into whether or not a customer actually downloaded the latest release artifact from their customer download portal. And so released, like literally just this past week, you can now see when a given customer downloaded an application and particularly which version of your application. We also introduced new tabular view options for both channels and customers. So we had some really great visual interactions with some of our traditional card views, but we also understand and got feedback that sometimes vendors just want to find a specific data point or review data in a denser view. So to this end, we added new tabular views that vendors can use to explore, sort, and focus on whatever columns are the most relevant to them, without necessarily needing to export the data into Google Sheets or some other spreadsheet type system just to be able to manipulate the columns and the views. So we're interested in getting your feedback on if this is valuable to you and what else you'd like to do with this data. We've also just made some additional reporting UX improvements across vendor portals. So some of the things we've done are actually persist, your filter search queries across views, which allows you to better maintain context as you are interacting with this data in vendor portal. We now persist channel ordering, sorting, hidden column user choices when updating. We now hide, based on feedback, we now hide inactive instances by default, but of course have a show checkbox that allows you to bring those back into the data. And perhaps one of the more exciting ones as well is just performance improvements, right? We've significantly reduced the load time for the customer view page. I know for some of you that had a large volume of customers, that page could sometimes be slow to load. So that is one of the areas that we focused on some performance improvements, and that customer's view page is loading a lot faster now. So in addition to some of the improvements you just outlined for the customer reporting, we've continued to make some improvements to your actual team reporting capabilities too, your team within vendor portal. So we wanted to give you the ability to more easily audit who within your team created or modified an application, release, or customer. So you can now do that. And then we also wanted to be able to help you identify who interacted on a customer license as well. So with both of those views, you can see you now have data in vendor portal around who created it, what the method was, when it was modified, did they do it via the web UI, within the vendor portal UI, did they do it via the CLI? So just bringing some more auditability about the actions your teams are taking. And of course, if there are things that you are interested in, oh, I wish I could know more about my, how my team is interacting with the vendor portal API, CLI, or within the UI, please log a feature request with us, because we want to get your feedback on what else you'd like to know as getting insights on your team's actions. I always like to tease, just like Alex did, a little bit of coming soon. So we're constantly looking for ways we can add more value to you via our reporting and insights capabilities. And so these are just a few of the coming soon options. So we're actively working on the ability to expose relevant reporting data on an instance when reporting a support bundle for that instance. And so this will make the support view even more valuable for quickly troubleshooting reported in customer issues and helping you more quickly find a solution path forward. And of course, vendors at scale that are managing a high volume of customer and or development instances have also expressed wanting to be able to better identify and filter those instances. For example, tagging an instance as owned by your internal QA team to easily distinguish that from a customer production instance. So that default instance name that you get from vendor portal, that's basically a string of characters, could make that difficult, right? So we are actively looking to add the ability for you to name an instance from vendor portal and add any relevant tags that you'd like on that as well. Another coming soon that we've been teasing for a while and that we're picking back up in earnest is the ability to get better insights from air gap instances. So currently Instance Insights is only available for in-customer instances that are installed in online environments. We do currently have an alpha method available to collect telemetry from air-gapped admin console installations by leveraging data that is already collected within the support bundle collection mechanism. And we are actively looking at advancing this capability beyond the current alpha state towards GA and making it more broadly available in the near future. So with that, I'm sort of teasing that we are actively looking for design partners interested in collecting telemetry from air gap instances. If you are interested, you can either let us know via your AE, or you can click on this link in the slide deck that will directly log a feature request expressing your interest in being a design partner and exploring the ability to get air gap telemetry insights with us as we look to bring that capability towards GA. We're also actively exploring, when we think about kind of what's next as far as Replicated's improved reporting and insights, we're actively looking at how we can introduce things like more customer level events and notifications. For example, a use case would be, you want to be notified in advance of a customer license expiring, right? So we're very interested in getting your feedback on what would be interesting to you as far as customer level events. What do you wish you could know more easily about what your customer does, where they are in their life cycle? If you've got input you'd like to give us, we're open and welcoming to it. So please let your AE know what your ideas or wish list is, and you can also log a feature request for us as well that will go directly to the product team. So in case it's not clear, we really want to hear from you. Which data would you like to see on customer instances, customer events, team activity, more? What would make your job easier and allow you to unlock more value from our instance capability? So my parting ask to you in this talk is to think about this question I posed here. If only the data could tell me blank, then I could learn or do blank. And let us know. Think about that question. Let us know what your answer to that question is. Let us know what data you would find valuable and what kind of value or capabilities or making your job easier that it could unlock for you. So again, you can let your AE know, or you can log a feature request there, which will go directly into the product team. And just one more thing before I wrap up. We've talked through a lot of exciting updates we've made this past quarter to Replicated's reporting and insights. But I wanted to also highlight something we introduced along the way, which was the vendor portal release notes. So in addition to forums like Replicon here or our various feature-related blogs, you can now easily find out about any new capabilities, improvements, or fixes to vendor portal via the new vendor portal release notes, which covers anything associated with the vendor portal UI, CLI, API, and that includes the compatibility matrix as well. So compatibility matrix enhancements will end up here. So with this docs edition, we now have release notes coverage for all of the major component areas of the Replicated platform. And so thank you for your time. Please let us know if you have any questions in the chat, or feel free to follow up with me or anyone from the product team or your AE after this event. We do love to chat with you, and we really want to learn how we can continue to add more value to your Replicated platform product experience. Thank you very much. And I will take a look at the chat. Anything that got asked that was not answered already?
I think we're good on questions. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask live? One more thing I'll note, just I think you kind of covered the release notes, but just to highlight that our docs have changed a lot this year, and I think we've really added a ton of work in there. So I would, if you haven't been navigating through our docs, please do take a look. There's a lot of new kind of structure and guides to help you use kind of the latest features. So there's a lot happening in the docs, and keep up to date there.
Yeah, great call out, Grant. Thank you.